Good afternoon. Welcome to New York City. I'm here with my partner, Joanne Abbott-Green, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our Mondo Conversation series. We thank all of you for sharing part of your day with us, and we look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks, and of course at Mondo in New York City and around the world, October 13th through the 16th. Today, we are proud to present the second edition of our co-presentation with Music Managers Forum US called Management Strategy Shifts in the Time of COVID-19. We're looking forward to a great discussion, and of course, our sincere thanks to MMF-US for developing this program with us. Now I'd like to welcome our moderator, MMF-US President, Neeta Ragoowansi. Neeta has been an entertainment attorney for over 28 years, having worked in-house at the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, for the National Symphony Orchestra Association, and for the digital performance rights organization Sound Exchange, where Neeta headed artist label relations, and she helped build the organization as part of their founding senior management team. Neeta has also served on the board of the New York and DC chapters of the Recording Academy. She's former president of Women in Music and WIM's current secretary and global co-chair, chapter expansion, and she's the Diversity and Inclusion Chair for the American Bar Association's Forum on the Entertainment and Sports Industries. Neeta is also SVP, Business Development and Legal Affairs for the National Performing Rights Exchange and Artist Relations for Road Nation. Neeta, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's all you.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that, Bobby and Joanne. It's great to be here, and thank you again for your support in this wonderful partnership. So hi, I'm Neeta Ragoowansi, President of Music Managers Forum. Just going to say a couple of words about Music Managers Forum, and then we'll get right into our panel. Welcome, and Music Managers Forum is a 27-year-old trade association for artist managers and self-managed artists. I encourage you to go to our website, MMF-US.com, and find out more about us. We have a bunch of events every month, and we do a lot of advocacy work, and so I do encourage you to get involved and find out more. So here we are at this, what I think is, just such an incredibly important panel to have right now. Back in April, we all sort of checked in with each other. We had done some MMF panels back in April talking about, hey, what a difficult time that this is, and that there are so many questions and no answers. And what are we gonna do? And there was a whole lot of doomsday reports and the feeling of doomsday. And as we all adjusted, as we all got a little bit more acclimated to this environment that we're in, we started discussing strategy. We started discussing about solutions and trying to find ways to maneuver around this interesting terrain. So I'm really happy that we are kind of meeting again and having this discussion at this time to sort of check in with each other and see what are some of those shifts in strategy, what are those shifts in the solutions there. So we know that, as we tune into these various webinars, as we tune into all the forms of news and communications, we do seek to understand and learn from what others are doing. And so I'm very excited that we have these great panelists here. I did want to just mention one thing, which is unfortunately Madeline, who is scheduled to be on our panel today, unfortunately had a personal emergency at the last minute, and she sends her apologies, but she's not going to be able to join us today. But we'll have her down the road in the future on something. So Madeline, we're gonna miss you. But we will march on. So guys, I'm really glad to have you, and I'm going to introduce you to our fabulous panelists, and then I'm gonna ask them to give a little intro on themselves. So let's start with Cindy. Cindy De Silva, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, so I'm co-owner of a boutique artist management agency called The Rocks Management. It is home to artists like the Zombies, Hollis Brown, AJ Smith, Bruce Sedano, and we have Don DeLego and, well, actually Colin Blunstone as a solo artist, and you know, a couple of visual artists as well. So we've been in business for now 3 years. We were in New York City, in offices in New York City right before COVID hit. And for some reason we shut them down in like the beginning of March, which was now looking back, a wise decision. We've been working remotely and we've been learning the new norm.
Well, welcome so much, and thanks, Cindy. Hi, Jeremy. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeremy Gruber.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Gruber. I am the head of artist marketing and digital strategy. It's a fancy new title for head of digital, essentially, at Friends at Work. Friends at Work is an artist management company founded by Ty Sticklorius about 6 years ago. We manage John Legend, Lindsey, Stirling, Charlie Puth, Raphael Sadiq, a number of developing acts, great acts. One of my favorite recently, Spielberg, great songwriter Ruth Ann. I won't go through all of them, but that's just a few you can look up. I'm also really into music technology. So my core job at Friends at Work is helping manage fan relationships and monetization of fan relationships and things like that. So that mostly exists in digital, which kind of hence the title, but it does exist in the real world as well. And really been thinking a lot about those relationships, and I think that is pertinent to this panel. In addition to my work at Friends at Work, I am a partner in a music tech startup called Foundy. That's the word found.ee, and I'm an adjunct professor at USC in the music industry program. Wonderful.
Well, thanks. Welcome, Jeremy. And Naveed, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Naveed Hassan.
Hey everybody, I'm Naveed. Thanks to Mondo and MMF for having me on the panel today. I work at MDDN, which is a small artist-owned boutique management firm in LA, founded by the Madden brothers, Joel and Benji. We manage and develop a bunch of artists. We maintain some studios, and we've got a startup called Veeps that's doing really well right now, that started as sort of a VIP business, but we've transitioned into doing a lot of live streaming and other solutions for artists. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. I can't wait to hear more about Veeps. Great. Thanks for being here. So let's see. I have all kinds of questions. Where should we start? Okay. Let's just start actually with the title of it all. Any of you want to just jump in and talk about sort of the shift that happened? Feel free to do it anecdotally. Pick an artist, say, you know what, this is what we were planning. We had to shift the strategy this way. Jeremy, you want to jump in?
Sure. we had a very interesting experience. I mean, March 11th was the last time I was in an office. The bigger shutdowns happened around March 13th. Funny story there. We represent Rita Wilson, one of our developing acts, and she very famously was diagnosed with COVID-19. And I had a meeting with her exactly 2 weeks before she was diagnosed. So we shut down our office immediately, just out of precaution. So I've been working from home since then. We started feeling the impact at the end of last year. Lindsey Stirling had a tour booked for China that we canceled. We're going to replace it with Russia. We have now canceled. She actually flew to South America on, I think, March 11th or 12th, got on a plane and turned around because they were afraid that by the end of the tour, she wasn't going to be able to get back, and that they weren't going to be able to put on the shows. Now that seems normal to us, but she flew to South America and flew back. So we have two main tours that got canceled. Lindsey Stirling and John Legend both had major US tours. That Lindsey's would be happening now. John's would have just started last week. That's a huge financial hit for music, for a management company. It really is. And, you know, we weren't sure for a while how it was going to get fixed. Now, we're lucky it hasn't gotten fixed, but we're lucky in that we deal with such big artists and we're such a relatively small company that we can survive as a company on that. And so we really focused all of our energy on what's right, like what the right way to reach people is. So I feel like we've gone in phases where, like, for the first phase we were in, it was do everything for free for the bigger artists. So, obviously for some developing acts, we could do some things with, you know, money exchange. For John, I don't know if anybody here was on there. Instagram Live became our friend, you know, really fast. And Global Citizen, a great social impact organization, put together a series of Instagram live streams. Started with Chris Martin, I think on like March 15th or something, and John's was on March 16th or one a day or two around that. And John went live for an hour with Chrissy, with his wife. And, you know, that really kind of brought the world together. And we did a lot of stuff like that, where it was a lot of just giving, a lot of just using that to give content to the world, and hopefully just use music to bring people together. And it worked really, really well. All of our artists, we did a all-day stream on Twitch with John, Charlie Puth, Lindsey, Stirling that weekend. And really for the first like 3 months, there was just no asking for money. We would still make revenue from merchandise. We make revenue from other revenue streams, but we wouldn't go out and ask to get paid unless it was a brand coming to us, which we did. And then what was great, you know, Road Nation just really, you know, I think touching on some developing act stuff, because I don't want to only talk about big artists, you know, put on shows. You know, I thought that was great. Spielberg, we had 3 artists, I think, on Road Nation's
Ruth Ann,
Twitch.
Spielberg, and
I think Frawley might have been on that also, which is great. I mean, just to have a distribution stream for developing acts who now can't leave. I mean, Spielberg's in the UK and can't get to the US to play shows. But we have, other than that, we have done everything digital. We have put out new music. John Legend released a new album. We've put out new singles several new singles for Charlie Puth. We are on track to put out a new album for Spielberg. And we are trying to get something useful here, because I'm just telling you what would happen. We've been using the technology to our advantage. I think the main thing I noticed is, you know, moving an artist around. I mean, we're talking about this with someone like John Legend. That's an expensive endeavor, but even a developing act, it's expensive to have them physically go someplace. And it's hard to get them in front of people. But with Zoom, we've probably played John Legend's album to more people than we would have ever played that music to before, just by sitting him in front, doing this exchange right here. The very fact that you guys are in New York and I'm in Los Angeles, and Naveed is, I think, also in Los Angeles. Like, we're all over the world, and there's almost 90 people sitting here having a conversation or listening to me talk. Now, you know, that's a special experience, and that's something you could only do this way. So we've really been taking advantage of that more than anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Cindy or Naveed, either of you guys want to jump in? Do you feel like there's been a shift in strategy? I mean, we all had, of course, a shift, but in terms of actually looking at, you know, the solutions for your artists, did you come up with anything, or what was that?
So with us, the zombies, we just had to move everything forward. Like, you know, we can't tour, we can't. It's complicated. They're in England, they're in separate parts of England, they're older, they shouldn't be getting around, right? And they're starting to get together now and rehearse, and they're working on their new album. But we just shifted our touring and decided that really quickly. We had dates that we were about to start in March. We moved those to September at first with our agent, and now we've moved them to next year. We do feel like we can do those next year, given the size of the venues and hopefully where we'll be with a vaccine by then. Bands like Hollis Brown, I got to give those guys credit. They've always been scrappy. They've always been about the live scene. So at first, you know, our lead singer would just do every live stream he could. Again, thanks, Neeta, because we did Road Nation, we did Bands in Town, we did a live stream for Harley Davidson. I mean, they're very proactive, we're very proactive. We found them a space to perform. But what we started to do is find sponsorships too, brands that would be willing to put in even just a couple $1,000s, you know, so that now a live stream pays for the band members and not just, you know, the van, that kind of thing. So, but we also, at our first, you know, shock, obviously everybody was freaking out when this first went down. Our first active thing that we did was really just find out where the money was. And we made sure that every single one of our artists, except for the zombies, filed for things like, you know, the Music Cares Fund and filed for unemployment, filed for whatever, you know, the stimulus checks. I mean, you'd be surprised what artists can't really do for themselves. So my
I've
partner
heard from
and
a
I,
lot of managers.
yeah, my partner and I,
take
we
care of that, you know. And I mean, I'm an attorney, and I've had to, like, you know, call my CPA on a billion questions because I didn't.
absolutely. But we also got them. So we've been lucky too, because most of our clients have LLCs of some sort, you know. So we also tapped into the whole small business loan thing and got them every single piece of, you know, security that we possibly could. And then it was like, okay, now breathe, now figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
You know, once we knew that they could pay their rent and be stable. And
so I'm going to circle back, Cindy, with you on brand relationships and new platforms, because I want to dig a little deeper. But I'm sorry, did I?
okay.
Okay, I'm going to turn to Naveed. I just want to get sort of that, you know, general sense, Naveed, of how you took it all in terms of solution strategy shifting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would echo a lot of what Cindy and Jeremy kind of already mentioned. I mean, fortunately, our company is pretty small as well, so we're pretty nimble. We don't have a lot of, like, you know, bloat. So for us, you know, strategically, it was not a ton different. We are a pretty tour heavy company. A lot of our artists tour a lot. So that was, you know, a bit of a tricky thing to navigate. And, you know, like Cindy said, we ended up pushing most of our tours, just pushing them back a year. So we'll see if that holds. Obviously the Veeps piece has been really vital for us. We've done a ton of ticketed live streams. The platform,
tell us about Veeps a little bit.
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, I encourage everyone to check it out. It's a completely, like, democratized platform where artists can control. It was created to control VIP business, right? So the way the business used to work was you did a deal with a VIP company. They would come out on tour with you, send a rep. They would charge. Sorry about that. It's probably a client call right now. They would charge. They would, you know, take half of the fees that would come in, and they'd have a person with a, you know, a step and repeat, and they would service the VIP fans. But the platform allows you essentially to create your own VIP experiences, your packages. It's a really simple technology, but it kind of takes out that middle person and allows even, I mean, you know, if you're a massive artist, you can do really well with VIP, as some of you know, but even with small bands, you know, even getting 10 people out to buy a VIP ticket every night can mean the difference between being, you know, in the black or in the red when it comes to the end of the tour. So luckily,
you found some success stories with sort of the medium-sized artists, we'll say, and sort of newer artists.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I'd have to check now, but I think there's close to 1,000 artists on the platform now, and we're starting to produce our own content as well on the platform. But yeah, I mean, I manage a band called Chase Atlantic that does about 1,500 cap rooms in the US and about 2,000 cap in UK. And we did a live stream for the band at the beginning of COVID and grossed a ton of money and did really well. And it was a really positive experience for the band. I mean, I think that for guys who the normal course is, like, you know, get everybody together, fly out, do the production, do the whole thing, for them to kind of go in and, like, create a live experience special for their fans in the course of, you know, a few days was a fun thing, and the fans reacted really well. We included a charitable component. You can control the ticket prices, so it's really kind of malleable to what folks need. But zoom back out to kind of the COVID thing. I think the main thing for us was to kind of just steady the ship, right? Like, everyone's in this together. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It feels like the sky is falling, but you kind of focus on the stuff you can control in the moment. And, you know, you kind of, like, keep your eye on things. I also managed an artist, K-Camp, who signed to Interscope. And for us, we had readied an album. We were ready to go. And we were kind of just watching the news day by day, trying to figure out if we were going to release. And I think a lot of artists got into that sort of mode of, well, is it worth releasing if I can't go on tour? Should I push back, or, you know, this or that? Obviously, it's a different equation for a lot of other artists, but for him, someone who's really prolific and creates a lot of music, we decided to just go with it. And it's been really successful. I mean, he's had a record charting at radio now, and I think fans just kind of really responded to the sort of, like, idea of doing something new. And I think that, you know, while doing like live performances or Instagram lives, like that's great for some artists, have the ability to just turn on their phone and be, to be that person. I think it's important to not get caught up. Like if that's not what you do, if your shtick is, if your production is you have face paint and 10 backup dancers, that maybe Instagram live isn't workable, so I think understanding like the limitations and not feeling like you need to do everything at once is important.
Well, I think I met you at a K Camp show, Naveed, and it's like, K Camp is amazing. I'm a fan. Did he's had amazing TikTok success. Was there anything done during COVID with TikTok and K Camp with his releases? Did you see, the short form apps are definitely part of people's marketing strategies. Did you guys feel like you did have any uptake on it there?
Yeah, TikTok is always always an interesting thing. I mean, he still has the largest record on TikTok, and people ask me all the time, like, how did you do it? Who did you hire? Whatever. And as much as I'd like to take credit for coming up with a genius marketing strategy, it's really just like, he's a great artist. He made a song that people really like. And, at the same time, a 14-year-old girl created a dance that turned into sort of like the Macarena of today. And that's, and it just coincided with the rise of TikTok. So for us, it was, it's a matter of just continuing to put up shots on goal and waiting for the moment. And when we noticed there was some traction on TikTok, I mean, the one thing we did do is we asked the platform, do you guys know who created the dance, so we can kind of get in touch and help? We couldn't figure it out. Taylor Lorenz, who works for the New York Times and a bunch of other places, wrote a really great article kind of unveiling Jalea, who created the dance. And as soon as we found out, we got in touch with her, created some content, and the world really reacted very positively to it and really kind of adopted them both. Like Black Twitter pretty much adopted her as like, their niece. So it was like a really great moment, I think, for the world to see someone get credit for something. And that really turned into a fruitful partnership for us. We've since begun representing Jalea. She's done commercials for Samsung and Chips Ahoy, and done a ton of music promo. So yeah, it's been an interesting time, especially for people like her, like more influencer kind of folks, where I think that brands and agencies still need ads to be created, even if they can't shoot proper commercials at this point. So there's people like her or artists that these folks are going to now and saying, hey, can you shoot yourself on your phone and deliver this thing, and we'll turn it into a commercial. So that stuff is still happening, I think. And I think that there's room for even more artists to get involved. It's just sort of changing the way we think about it normally.
Let's talk about brand relationships for a second. So like during COVID, I do feel like I'm hearing, and Cindy, you were saying, for example, there's brands that came along and you found that there is some revenue stream there. So were those brand relationships, well, Cindy, actually tell me, were those brand relationships ones that were generated during COVID, or were they pre-existing?
There were some pre-existing relationships that we did. Like we had been talking to an influencer company called Connect they have several different spaces all over the country, including Nashville. And they had been talking to us about AJ Smith, one of our young artists, doing a year residency there where he gets a free apartment for a year and they cover all these expenses. It's really wonderful. And they give him a studio to work out of and everything. And so Fiona Bloom, my dear friend and partner in crime, she helped us connect that, but it was weird because COVID did push it back quite a bit. We were supposed to start in May or June, and then really we couldn't pull that together until the beginning of August. And now AJ is living there in this place doing wonderful things for this brand, and has a free place to live for a year and some
amazing,
but most of our sponsorships were relationships that we had previously, but recently, and I think it's just because Mike from Hollis Brown is a bartender when he's not making music, and he's just that guy that is not afraid to talk to anyone. He developed a relationship with VitaFusion, and out of nowhere came this really wonderful opportunity where they partnered up with us on our, it was the first show that it was the second show we were able to do within a real venue, because we're out of New York, and you know, New York shut down really hard. There was no chance of doing a full live stream with a band in place, and they are definitely a band. So we were doing a bunch of one-off, like, you know, solo duo things, but really I felt like we needed to get back to what they do at their core. And Live from Daryl's house in Pauling said, look, we can run all our cameras remotely. We can give you a safe space. Will you come in and do a live stream for us? And so we did, and we got Vitafusion on board, and
Great.
it was a profitable night. It was,
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling. I hope we have a ton more of those.
Yeah, wonderful. Jeremy, Naveed, do you guys have any brand stories you want to share in terms of, like, you know, during these past months, something that was generated that?
We've
Yeah.
had a few. I mean, because brands wanted a similar topic, you know, brands wanted the live streams also. You know, first, the charitable elements to all of them, pretty much all of them. I mean, I would consider a lot of the early Twitch streams brand, like, we have a long relationship with Procter and Gamble. I know I'm working with again, significant, like, bigger artists. So, you know, John Legend has a long history, and so does Friends at Work with Procter and Gamble. So they were one of the sponsors for that Twitch Aid all-day stream that happened this Saturday after everything shut down. But then right away, Bud Light did their dive bar series, and they just literally sent a pack of Bud Light and a sign to Charlie Puth and paid him to do a IGN Facebook Live. We just got experts at producing live streams in artists' houses, pretty much, just with a minimal stuff. And thankfully, you know, even Lindsey Stirling, who is not a good live streaming artist, she's the artist, you know, that Naveed was talking about, who has, you know, the bright lights and the flashing, and, like, you can't put on a Lindsey Stirling show without flashing stuff. And she pulled it off. We actually wound up doing a violin lesson for Bose. Bose reached out to us. It was a small deal, but she does not do a lot of brand business. But Bose reached out, really, you know, developing act level deal with a charitable donation, and that was great. And we all got, actually, that's where these headphones came from, was from that deal too. So yeah, we love that. Yeah, but so that it has opened up.
Cool.
Sorry,
One
go
thing
ahead.
I would add too is we've had some success, even just circling back with agencies and brands that we've done deals with in the past. A lot of what we've done is just relicensing stuff we've already done. So just extending, you know, if we did a campaign for 3 months with a sneaker brand, and they need to have some stuff to keep the lights on and humming, just extend the license for a couple months. The brand doesn't have to spend a crazy amount of money. The artist gets paid a bit for not doing anything additional, and it kind of feels like a win for everybody. So I would recommend people just to check in with folks that you've done business with, because sometimes, you know, you can repurpose stuff and make new content out of what's been done.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Let's talk about monetizing, well, maximizing what's there. I know that, you know, we sort of talked in the past webinars at MMF about, you know, having various companies talk about sort of their financing companies, for example. Jeremy, I know we were talking, I mean, do you sort of have an idea a bit about, just to tell our audience, just sort of generally about, because I know that Madeline, we were just have Madeline talk about sort of the financing companies to help maximize your assets. Could you just sort of give us a framework of what one of those might look like?
Yeah, we've looked into this. I have to be totally transparent that we have not closed a deal on this, but there are a number of companies right now, and I know Madeline is much more of an expert in these, but we've explored them, and I'm a mentor in a program called Techstars that has a LA, I think there's like 400 mentors. That's not that special, but it's a great program that accelerates 10 startups a year. And one of the startups in its second year was a group called the Music Fund. And, you know, that I think it's a really good deal for the right kind of artist, where you can essentially, if you have some guaranteed revenue stream, you can go and essentially calculate what that's worth and give and how much you're willing to kind of give back of that and get an advance. It's getting an advance with no strings attached, other than your I'll put the link there. It's getting an advance, and I'm not affiliated with them at all. It's getting an advance with nothing except a guarantee of your future revenue, and it's based on your future revenue. And they all have slightly different deals and slightly different payback structures. There was one, I can't remember the name, that I remember talking to, where they assume more risk, where like if you don't pay it back, if they give you an amount and you don't pay it back in the time period, that you win, basically. Like you just keep the money. There's some where it's more, your period gets extended and it is more like a loan and you have to pay it back. But we've been exploring things like that for a while, because we do work with developing artists. One act, Voila, that we work with, does some significant streaming but can't really tour yet. They're not really a touring act. They don't really have that kind of audience. They're really a pop songwriting duo. So we've looked into kind of, if you want to draw money out of that, but you just have to, my only advice on that is just a person is looking at it is to really be careful with why you're pulling the money out, because like it's your money eventually. So if you're using it, it should be to accelerate your revenue streams through creation of more content, maybe making the next record. You shouldn't just be, or surviving till you can make the next album, obviously, and given the world circumstances. But I just think people just need to be really careful with those kinds of deals, which is why we haven't done one yet, because every time we think about it, you know, even a developing act can get some brand money sometimes, or a sync. I think sync is really what did it for Voila, that really made them kind of relook. And also one of the guys in that band is a model. So if you're into tall, blonde, handsome guys, look up Voila.
Good to know.
Little plug.
Little plug. I'm going to just keep shifting through different things here, because I just keep getting different thoughts in my head. Fan engagement. Have you, any three of you jump in about, have you found like during this time period to get, say for your newer bands or your newer artists, the ones that don't have, not the John Legends, so don't talk about John Legend, Jeremy, but, you know, just sort of, and don't talk about the zombies, you know, but talk about like, you know, how it's been. Has it been challenging? Have you had some successes? And actually, I know we mentioned for a second about actually being able to play for more people during this past few months than had it been a live tour, for example. Have you found like that there's been some better ability to expand the audiences and even get deeper into fan engagement because of the online environment, for example?
Well, actually, Hollis Brown did something pretty brilliant. I mean, early on, I told them, I said, what about Patreon? You know, like we've not explored that before, because the guys aren't into crowdfunding that much. But I said, it's different. You create specific content for them. And I think that's been a good place for us to really stay in touch with our super fans. You know, we've gone back and given them stuff like old demos of songs from our first album, that kind of thing, and live streams just for them, and Q&As and all kinds of fun things like that. And for the core, you know, 85 people or so, it's been amazing, and it's kept the band alive. But also when New Jersey and New York started to open up in the past month and a half, boys are actually getting out there and doing outdoor backyard concerts.
Oh yeah?
Socially distanced. They sell, you know, it's a higher price ticket. They'll do up to 50 people only. And it's been a great experience. A lot of that core fan base that just can't live without them have, you know, hired them. We did a private party, similar situation, where they actually got $5,000. I mean, it's, you know, it keeps the lights on.
Optimism. I love hearing.
Yeah, it keeps the lights on. And quite frankly, I don't think those boys can go for very long without playing. They just can't. It's, you know, and especially being in New York, they've had to be really creative.
Yeah.
So, you know, also, like, for some reason, AJ Smith was actually able to do this Miss International. He ended up hosting Miss International in Tennessee. Again, very strange situation, but everything very socially distanced. His own microphone the entire time. You know, cleaned in between uses. No, the audience was set further back in the hall, socially distanced, everyone wearing masks. I mean, you know, you do what you got to do. You just got to find new ways to keep the lights on.
Did AJ Smith have a special fan that came up during these COVID months that I seem to have seen online, perhaps?
That was a very interesting situation. He had written a song when he first started dating his girlfriend. He quickly found out that she was a massive Billy Joel fan.
Billy Joel.
and he had taken a train ride to meet her family out in Long Island, and she's like, listen, we need to talk. Like, you need to understand that there's only 3 things that my parents care about. It's the New York Mets, wine, and Billy Joel. And so of course he was like, well,
So New York.
the Mets are losing right now at the time. And he's like, and I don't think I know anything about wine, so I'm a piano player. I can wing the Billy Joel thing, you know? Ended up playing a 2-hour concert for them, like a sing-along after dinner. And so during this, right before COVID, he had written this song called Billy Joel. It was really like a makeup song for his girlfriends. You know, one of the lines was, you know, he's apologizing to her, and then he goes, let me play your favorite song, you know, that one by Billy Joel. And it was genuine. And so again, Fiona Bloom and we sat down and we thought, okay, how are we going to get this to Billy? Because why not? You know, it's cool, it's different. All he can do is, you know, tell us to go buzz off. And sometimes it takes a village. So there were many people involved, but we did get it to Billy, and he absolutely loved it. And I keep finding out new places that he's shared it on. He's not only shared it on his personal social medias, but like all his little Facebook groups that are Billy-centric.
He's at home, like
yes, and he loves it. And he actually wrote us the nicest note saying, hey, you know, if we tour in 2021, would AJ be interested in doing some opening slots? And the answer was hell yes.
Madison Square Garden for
yeah, exactly. So, you know,
the story during COVID.
Of course we've been in touch with his agent, and he said, listen, as soon as there's a vaccine, we'll be calling you, which I think is awesome. You know, so we've all made it work. One way or another, we found our way to stand out and get through this period.
Lovely. That's beautiful. Good to hear optimism. I'm tired of doomsday. Okay. But if you guys want to talk doomsday, we're good. But, you know.
No. That orange glow is already coming around, Neeta. That orange glow is already coming around.
Good.
Yeah.
Don't want to make any political statements here, but the sun is reflecting off Trump Tower. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, so Jeremy and Naveed, let's see. In terms of, sorry, we were talking about. I kind of want to go to take your pick. Is it about monetization, apps, new platforms, anything that you think has helped drive fan engagement? It could be around, you know, building revenue streams or fan engagement. Take your pick.
I'll jump in quick. Honestly, I feel like they're you know, I've been in the music business for almost 10 years now, and it's, you know, over my time, it's been a slow realization that there really are no rules. And the people who are saying that there are rules you need to follow are the sort of old guard that will slowly be, stoically walked off the cliff. So for me, it's there really are no rules, and we've seen a lot of our artists that have even like their catalog is getting repurposed and put on TikTok, and their kids like literal 12-year-old kids discovering songs that came out 5-6 years ago, creating a TikTok dance, and the song is going viral. So for me, when I see stuff like that, you know, that just communicates to me that, like, you know, this traditional record cycle of, yes, of course, like, you know, we need to sort of like understand how that works and how things fit together, but also don't disregard like the catalog that you've built, and that there's value in that. We represent this really interesting artist, Poppy, who's got a catalog that's just booming on TikTok, and we didn't quite understand why. Same with Bishop Briggs. When I think about it, I think I sort of like place, for me, when I was going to college was when Facebook kind of started, right? So it was, you had to have a .edu to get Facebook. And it was an exciting moment for everybody. And then everybody's mom and dad got on Facebook, and grandma, and Facebook turned into sort of like a different world. It was a conversation about politics and this and that. I'm kind of seeing the same thing happen to Instagram now, where Instagram is becoming a bit more politicized and it's less fun, I think, for kids. And understanding that, I think that's why you're seeing the rise of apps like TikTok, because there isn't really as much of a clear agenda anymore. It's kind of just like, I want to see somebody smile and dance and do something. And as frivolous as that sounds, it's powerful, and it connects people. And if you ask I guess as an aside, if you ask the folks at TikTok, what's the content that works well? It's the content that has beginning, middle, and end, right? That shows somebody's face. And if they're smiling, it's going to do better. It's pretty obvious stuff, I think. But some of us are so deep into music and marketing and stuff, we forget that it's not that complicated. Take a great song and an entertaining small video clip, and it can start a trend that can do something really interesting. And and don't forget about your catalog is what I would say.
Yeah, nice.
I'm gonna add to what Naveed's saying, and I'm not even gonna talk about that. First of all, thanks, Naveed. That's really good. A couple of things I'm gonna add to it. I'm not even gonna use that many artist examples. One I think though is also just don't sleep on other stuff. Like Triller is not as big as TikTok, but because I hooked, because I got in there early, I've got 2 artists that are doing really good stuff on Triller. This artist Spielberg that we're working with is getting great support, because not a lot of artists are actually going in there and talking to them. Everybody's focused on TikTok. So I go in with a developing act on Triller, and I'm like getting really nice feature placement with his content. The other thing is getting creative. Spielberg, same artist. I'm going to share a music video, shameless plug, that he did just because there's a tiny pony in it, and it's amazing. And this was made in the height of the quarantine, where literally he had a song called "The World Is Falling Apart." We found the owners of the pony, live in Santa Barbara, wrote the treatment for the shot the video, did the whole thing all on like no budget. So if you need a smile, this tiny pony that lives in Santa Barbara is an emotional support animal, and you can enjoy looking at. His name is like Superstar or something, and stars and Spielberg isn't even in that video. But yeah, so I'm thinking about like other platforms, and basically what I'm thinking about all the time is ways to reach the audience. It's all about content and distribution, right? So everything Naveed's talking about is totally true. But like, I think what makes the problem, I've been doing my job, or some version of my job, for 12 years now. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I've been doing some version of this job I have now for 12 years. And in that time, what is viral, what is quote unquote viral, has evolved quite a bit, from like little, Charlie bit my finger to now dances on TikTok. And there's been 10 iterations. Every year there's a new iteration in between. And I think what makes TikTok exciting and scary at the same time is the fact that you can't game it, you can't control it, and it has very little to do with the artist itself. So like Instagram and Instagram Reels, you can reach out to Instagram if you've got a big enough an artist doing something fun, and they might help you support it. And it's about the artist, it's about something like that. But TikTok is really about the creators. And what TikTok has done well is they've made the For You page, this algorithm, something that actually, if you are an unknown and you create something good, it will actually get served to people, like hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And if they like it, they're going to do it too. And then it's going to get served to hundreds of thousands or millions of people. So the content is ruling and the music is following along. It's attached. It's like Guitar Hero and Rock Band were like 10 years ago. People, it's not like AC/DC had suddenly come out with something new with Back in Black on Guitar Hero. It's not like they'd broken some revolution. It's that now you were playing a video game and Back in Black was on repeat because you had to master that. That's what TikTok is. You're seeing 30 pieces of content with Megan Thee Stallion in it, with Cardi B in it, and with all these things in it, and it just goes by over and over again. So it really is about the creator. So we're trying to figure that out. Trying to figure out how to work with that. I'd say our biggest success, the last part of the story does go back to John Legend. The biggest success we've had was actually a social impact moment. It wasn't a viral moment. John, I was thinking before the marches started in June, in May and June, and before the George Floyd murder, I had been thinking about like what makes John Legend special. What could John connect with on TikTok? And what makes John Legend special is his voice, right? He has one of the best voices in the world. So we had him sing like 30 a cappella pieces throughout his catalog, old and new. And then the George Floyd murder happens. People are marching. I'm out there marching. We're all out standing for what we believe in. And John just emails us, hey, upload Glory. And now there's 2,000 videos of an acapella. Not only are there thousands of videos of the recording of Glory, there's the acapella version of Glory on every BLM protest video all over TikTok. And it was just we didn't make any money from that. Glory streaming did go up during that time period because of the movement, but we didn't monetize that. It just is a good thing that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was going to ask about these months and the fact that creatively the content has, I was thinking about COVID, but of course I was thinking about BLM and both movements in a sense and how it's affected. And I wanted to ask you guys, with your artists, how has it affected creatively your artist's approach to what they're playing? I mean, I know I was on some panels elsewhere in other parts of the world, and they were talking about the data has shown that people want songs of hope and of struggle and and things that are more honest than ever, things that are far more authentic and but they were talking about the data, right? And it was very like robotic in a way about it, and yet of course data is important. So if you've used data in that way, please do tell us. But how has that changed your artist's creative approach?
I think I'll jump in really quick. I think that's a slippery slope to worry too much about data. I mean, I know, again, this is a trade panel, and we all get paid to talk about numbers and be experts, and that's important for sure. But I think that sometimes the conversation gets a little bit too skewed towards like data, right? Like none of us got into the music business because we love data. We all got into this business because we listened to a record when we were 12 and we fell in love with it, and it opened up a rabbit hole of other things. And so I think, look, if you're an artist that finds success in being really like authentic and talking about topical things, like we represent Anti-Flag. That band has been talking about social movements for 25 years. That's what they're going to do. But if that's not your thing, then I think that jumping into a movement, in that way, it could be dangerous. It could come off as sort of like pandering. And so, that's not to like knock anyone who's trying to make an honest statement. But I think that do what you do, like, right? Like as an artist, like focus on you as an artist. What are the things you care about? And I think that the fans like resonate with that intrinsically. I think when kids see stuff that they feel like is like an ad or sort of like a marketing scheme, I think that kids are kind of like pushed away from that. So
yeah,
that would be,
yeah. Were you guys?
I don't want to speak. If Cindy, if you I have one thing to add, but okay. So the John would always say, it's who he is. His album was entirely written before COVID. We made one choice based on the album. We added the 16th track. It's called Never Break. He just played it at the Democratic National Convention on Tuesday night. He closed it out after the keynote. So that I guess is the one change that we made to the album, because he's always used his voice, but this album was supposed to be an album of joy. But also, we had the discussion, should we put it out after I would say the social climate after the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor probably affected John's album more than COVID-19 in some ways. Obviously the postponement of the tour was a COVID-19 decision, but I would say that the conversations we were having, putting the album out on Juneteenth, that was a conscious decision. having a versus battle with Alicia Keys on Juneteenth. That was a conscious decision. Still putting it out in that time as a celebration of joy from a Black artist, supporting Black artists with, the album artwork was done by a Black visual artist. We were elevating voices. We were trying, John was elevating voices, so we thought that was important to continue with, but everything about the album was made before all of that, because it's just who John is.
Yeah.
It's just part of who he is. And then the addition of Never Break was because of the moment we thought it was necessary. The one thing that also happened is Lindsey Stirling, has never been political. This genuinely did move her in the right direction, in what my opinion is the right direction. Obviously, it's all opinions. But she really has become more vocal in the last 2 months, and in a way that is special. If you look up her speech, she did a really nice Instagram post video. It was very vulnerable and very real. She's crying, talking about her own realizations. I encourage you to look it up if you aren't aware.
I followed her and it was amazing. It kind of, brought a tear to my eye. It's pretty meaningful, powerful stuff. Fabulous, thank you. And, I'm going to turn to some of these questions because we got a lot. And so this is probably for Naveed, but you know what? Any of y'all. It says, how is success on TikTok and similar platforms monetized, and how are profit mechanisms evolving with new sharing platforms?
That's a loaded question, right? I think, I think everyone's trying to figure that out right now. If TikTok streams counted, I would be a really happy person because we'd have like a diamond record probably on our hands. But look, until things get figured out, you gotta figure out how to, take the success in one area and funnel it back into streams, into merch, into touring. We saw a huge jump in streaming for K-Camp with Lottery. And then recently, actually, I signed an artist who I noticed on TikTok, Cookie Kawaii, that just dropped a record called Vibe that's been doing extremely well. We released a remix with Tyga a week ago. And look, I think that you kind of go where things are happening. And it'd be great if we could monetize those streams, but if we can't, let's take that energy and funnel it into Spotify, funnel it into, physical sales. I know that's not probably the best answer to a question, but the secret is there really is no secret. It's just, take the energy and try to transfer it. And, and that's what you can do.
But us lawyers and advocacy organizations like MMF and such, we are trying to work towards, pushing the users of music out there to get into a good monetization model, whatever that may be, if it's pushing it under licensing or pushing it under some other regime, if it was, the way it was back with YouTube and having, rev share on ads, and, there needed to be industry push. So we're having those, or we're trying anyway to have those conversations. Every organization does it a little differently. There are definitely folks, who say they're not interested in talking to us, and I'm like, okay, that makes me want to fight harder.
There's a whole other panel to be had, I think, in that conversation.
Exactly.
It's like an entire panel.
So also now,
the TikTok has a fund. Their Instagram has a fund. Instagram's been paying creators for participation on Reels. Like, a lot of these platforms are trying to hold themselves accountable. Obviously, human beings are not the best at policing themselves. So, there's a lot of work to be done. But, I think getting in touch and saying, hey, we have this many streams happening on this platform. What can we do? I think if you come to the table, even if it may not be a direct sort of like licensing deal that comes out about, you'll forge a relationship that I think will open doors and take turns. And, I've had TikTok and Triller and Instagram send me brand deals before for artists. And there's a lot of give and take that can happen that just starts from an email or a conversation of, hey, this thing looks like it's happening. Like, let's talk.
Well, that's good to hear. And it sounds like there is, of course, some value. I hate to say it as a copyright lawyer, but there is some value, promotional value, in these platforms. So at least there's that for now. And yes, the relationships, there is some good that does come from that, and may not be through the traditional licensing models. Okay, next question. I'm going to go to, let's see. It's a good general. I'm going to save that one for a little later. Okay, interested in the interested in the tech side of hosting pre-recorded performances. What companies and technologies are being used? I mean, there's, in terms of VIP and ticketed performances, you can go to Veeps.
Yeah.
We're thinking a lot about this right now. Also, because there's so many. I mean, Veeps is obviously one that we've been talking. And the thing about Veeps and a lot of them is I guess when I saw this question before in the prep materials, I was wondering why they're specifically asking about pre-recorded material and not live, because the only difference between live to tape and live in a digital environment should be artist engagement. So in a live situation, you can have a engagement like I'm reading the chat, I'm talking to you, it's real, it's live. But live to tape, well, when we do live to tape, we use YouTube Live, IGTV. There's any number of platforms that we could go to. Twitch, you can kind of program go. But if I'm going to do interactive, that's when we get into Twitch, we get into something like Veeps, we get into ticketed stuff. Might have Moment House, you might have, like, there's any number of things. You just got to know why you're doing it,
Right.
and pick your technology from that.
There are different licensing issues when you go into archiving content that have to be dealt with, especially on certain platforms that don't have some mechanism in place. So there is that.
And to add really quickly, like even on Veeps, for some of our artists, getting together and doing a live concert isn't feasible. Like Anti-Flag did a whole tour where we sourced the videos from festivals that they had done in Europe and the States, some of which had never been aired. So collecting these concert videos that are 45 minutes long and shot beautifully, and then you put them on a platform like Veeps, and you call it a digital tour, and you charge a very modest amount, a couple of dollars, for fans to be a part of it, and the band gets on the stream and chats with people, and it becomes like a way to just to have something for your fans to interact with and to experience and to remember and reflect on. And it doesn't always have to be like, okay, let's hire an MD and let's perform and do this and do that. It can be something really simple and easy and straightforward too.
Yeah. And Cindy, I mean, you used Road Nation. How was your experience?
I thought it was wonderful. I mean, as far as you guys had a great audience. We got exposed to 13,000 people at one point. I thought that was wonderful. It's the tip jar thing is cool. We've done well, and I do prefer. I still want to look for a good interactive platform where a full band can perform, because a lot of my acts have full bands, and that's been a struggle. It's
You mean to find software or technology that allows them to perform together? I mean, Jeremy, were you looking?
No one has it. I was looking for that forever, because Lindsey can't do it. She had to have her guitarist pre-record a drumming guitar thing for her to be able to do her performances at her sister's house. John, we want to do duets. We can't do everything that's a collab. We either have to get them in the same room. So John and Alicia's verses, they either couldn't play together, which they wound up doing, or they had to get in the same room, or there's no low latency, except for like if you have a really great studio with an ISDN line, the way they do like film scores and stuff in Prague, that's a pretty high-tech stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's why at the end of the day, we ended up finding venues that could do it for us. Like we've only done 2 so far, professionally shot. One was a live from the Bowery Electric, which Jesse Malin, his sound systems are the greatest for like small venues.
Yeah.
So they were able to do something there, and that was wonderful. But then they did live at Daryl's house, and that was 1,000 times better even. So, I mean, because when you have a band and they're a rock band and they have energy and they play off of each other, and even just to experience that for a minute, and don't forget, there's the whole rehearsal thing. There's no getting into a rehearsal space really just yet. They're starting to,
Right.
They're with masks and all that, but and we still might lose a member of the band because
Yeah.
some people are just not worried, ready to risk their health, and
Yeah.
I can't blame them.
So, no, yeah, it's a thing, and I mean, hopefully it won't be for, I mean, too long is this interesting
Who
word.
knows?
So, I mean, it is this interesting thing about, I mean, there's a question here about how are artists, managers making money now, and we were sort of talking about that, and branding deals, and using Veeps as a ticketed thing, or Road Nation to sell unique merch, and expand audiences, and hopefully that leads, whether it's TikTok or Road Nation or elsewhere, to more streaming. Do you think online performances can sustain themselves? I mean, how far along? Any guesses? Any estimation on that?
It's just a new thing. It's not going to replace concerts, right? But it's something different. I think the key to success in any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, which is what music is not letting one thing be able to sink you, right? So if something happens to a merch shipment and you lose a merch shipment or something, that shouldn't sink your business. The same way that losing touring, obviously it's a huge component for a lot of bands and a lot of artists, and in turn managers, but trying to build a robust business that not one thing alone can kind of end things for you. So yeah, to me, the live performance thing, I don't think it'll go away. I think it'll still exist. I hope it still exists when there's live concerts, because it's just an extra a revenue stream. And I'm sure that there's artists that are going to come along that are going to kind of turn it on its head and do different things that we haven't seen be done. I think the Strokes are doing something really interesting on YouTube, where they get on a Zoom like this, they kind of talk and hang out, and you kind of get to see the band interact in a way that you don't see artists interact. And they post it on YouTube. I think it's called like Five Guys Talking. But they play songs for each other, and it's kind of like you're hanging out with the band, even though you're not there. And I think that's kind of like an interesting way to be active without having to perform or kind of do something that feels unnatural.
Right. And keeping,
I've heard that OAR is doing that as well, and it's something like they have like a have a drink with us kind of thing, and they have a different cocktail and they talk about it and do all kinds of stuff. I know for us, one of the things that's kept us alive is look, when you have an act like the Zombies, you can always go back to the catalog, and you can go back to the labels, you can go back through the books, you can find money that's been missing for decades. It's just, so that's one thing that we've really honed in on.
Legal and business housekeeping during this time has definitely resulted really well for a whole lot of folks. So, keep talking, Cindy. Tell us that.
No, it's just we've gone back and been able to research things that normally we just don't have the time to do entirely. And we've been able to, end up with records that are suddenly recouped, and suddenly income is coming in, and you're like, oh, interesting, because for the last 10 years I've been asking you about this and it's not recouped. But it's about doing that extra digging, and quite frankly, it's really a time to dig deep into your friends in the industry and really kind of reconnect with them. It started with the first, hey, are you okay? And then it was kind of like, well, how can we help each other right now? I'm lucky enough to have two phenomenal mentors that are just great people, and just reconnecting with them and kind of going, that extra mile, looking at all the aspects of our business, like where is there money to be found? Is it in licensing? Is it in a new publishing deal for an artist that, like, we're in the middle of some negotiations for AJ. I'm really happy about that. That's all I can say for now, but like, it's really, we've shifted because we've always been very tour heavy. Our artists always tour, and we lost a ton of money when the Zombies had to back out of 2 back-to-back cruises and a tour. But you know, you find other ways, and you really you figure out how resilient you are.
By the way, thank you, Cindy. By the way, Fiona Bloom had posted that Jam Kazam has barely higher latency than Jack Trip. Anyway, there's a nice comment over here from Fiona Bloom about potentially something that looks like it might work for the remote playing of bands. Yes, Jeremy.
So I was no, I think I had heard about that earlier on. I have to look into it deeper. It's the ability to connect that to a stream while people are watching. I know there's one where it's like people can practice. I know there's ones where people go. It's all of it working together. But anyway, that back to what I was gonna say. I think, you know, when in my first little intro, I was like how there was kind of like eras of the quarantine almost, where it's like at first it was like, let's do Instagram lives, like that's all we're doing, and then I think we're about to enter into this, and we were doing everything for free. Like established artists could not ask for money. I think we've evolved out of that era now. We're in a place where even established artists can be asking for money, and we're going to start doing ticketed events. Obviously, Veeps, you guys have been doing, Naveed's been doing it for a while with them. The challenge that I think all artists have when it comes to ticketed live streaming is going to be making it feel like an event and scaling. Those are the two things I think that are the biggest challenge, because once you do it, like you have to have a reason to get people to come back if you're going to do it again. And more than just time, more than just, oh, you missed it last time. So you can get 2 or 3 out of, I'm doing this today and I'm doing this next week, or I'm doing this for 4 different time zones. But it's really hard to get people. Sorry?
No, I was going to say, and if you're trying to do a global tour, there are some places like in Eastern Europe, for example, that have opened up and they're back in the clubs.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of them without masks. Very envious. And yet they're, you almost have to do a tour, a digital tour, a virtual tour based on.
So the thing we're thinking about is like, we're thinking about is like playing the whole album. You know, playing a whole album, making it a reason, doing scaled VIP, you know, maybe the GA for the stream is $5, but if you want to get a tour of the artist's house before the show, it's $50, you know, whatever works for your artist. Right. I know that there are some artists, like some great songwriters, some jam bands, things like that could do, you know, could probably play every night and people would tune in. And there's group things like nugs.net where it's like every Fish show ever is up there and people subscribe and watch them. But I think for a lot of artists, you got to get really creative as to like, what is it that you're offering? Otherwise, live streaming doesn't scale.
Yeah, and I think it's the live component. It's really interacting with your fans, right? So it's like if kids feel like, hey, there's a chance that this artist is going to read the chat and talk to me. I think that shouldn't be dismissed. I think that piece is really powerful for getting kids. You know, I mean, we're talking about, you know, most of these live stream concerts are between $3 and $15, most of them I've seen, and most kids, you know, it's like most kids are down to pay that. So if your artist is willing to spend 10 minutes talking to the GAs in a chat on a live stream, I think you'll see a ton more engagement. And then you know, like Jeremy's saying, you can break it out and offer different packages for, you know, if they want to do a private hang with the artist or whatever, then, you know, there are the fans that'll pay for that. But I think, you know, watching someone perform live is cool. Feeling like they're reading your comment is really cool for kids.
Yeah. It's funny, there's a great question here about Twitch, and it's funny how Fiona Bloom and Jeremy are answering that. So it's, you know, it was what type of artist is Twitch for? Is it for everyone or only for a particular market? Just read those comments on the side, I guess, because I mean, Jeremy, unless you want to talk about it, it sounds like you.
No, I'm saying I love it. I love doing it. I was so excited when I was able to program. We booked 5 artists, I think, on that day, 3 of our own and 2 of, you know, friends. We booked Rufus Wainwright, who's just a friend. We booked John, Lindsey, Charlie Puth, like I think 2 of our developing acts, all on that like 24-hour stream, and then the Road Nation one, we had like 3 acts in. The idea that, like, you know, some of our developing acts played to 10, you know, same thing Cindy said, 13,000 people at some point, huge exposure, great comments coming in, people were freaking out. But I will say John Legend had the prime slot. They were so excited to have John.
Yeah.
10 a.m. on the stream, which is like the best spot around the country. 115,000 people or so watched it, which is awesome. But then he was done, and it was like it didn't matter. It was like, thank you for this entertainment, John. Thank you. We're going back to what we're doing now. But Lindsey, it was like everybody followed her. Everybody freaked out. You know, definitely had great like responses across the board. Now, whether or not we're ever going to we're talking to them with Lindsey about maybe doing some long-term programming on Twitch. The long-term programming you have to like really invest in. Like those are all one-offs.
Yeah.
You really have to invest in the platform for the long-term programming. You have to be on there 4 to 8 hours a week at minimum, probably a day, to really develop your audience there. And that's actually another good COVID thing. Like Lindsey's finally ready to talk about doing that. Our artists are ready to do that now because of they have time. They can.
I mean, Twitch is
Yeah,
making a major push. I've been watching Twitch a lot, you know, for the music. And what's interesting is how some artists have really got their audio quality down, and you know, and others haven't. But it is quite. I'm dying to find out if anybody knows. Email me. I'll give you my email later. You know, sort of the software or it might be that there's plugins, it might be that there's just, you know, good old microphones, but whatever they're using, there are certain very professional artists sitting there from home playing their channels on Twitch, being active, and their audio quality is out of control fabulous. I'm like, wow. So anyway, it is one of those things where I'm like, everybody, you know, find out the right way to do it, because I find myself going back to those particular artists just because it's like a sonic experience. It's really fun. Bobby, Joanne, were you gonna do some of the questions on the chat or elsewhere?
Nope, it's all
No?
you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if am I supposed to read all
I
this?
just wanted to say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Don't ever discount, even during COVID, don't discount the importance of merch. You know, with the zombies, we have a great merch line, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I started it from scratch. There was nothing. And now we do a tremendous amount of business. We didn't know what to do because, you know, again, like I said, they weren't able to do live streams. They weren't able to do all this stuff. So how do we stay in the face of the media and in the face of our fans? Well, we did finally come up with 3 really great designs for masks. And I did a thing where, of course, anybody who ever worked for us got a lovely little care package from me, but also we sent it out to every journalist who had ever written about us, both in the UK and the US. And the tremendous thing is I'd never asked for anything back. I just was like, you know, this is for you. I hope you stay safe. I wrote a personal note with each one because I have time for that now. And suddenly what we ended up seeing was a natural response and a natural, oh my God, I love this mask, I want to share it. And there's a bunch of them all over Facebook now, and our sales have been going through the roof. So it's kind of nice. I didn't do it for that reason, but you can never really forget about merch, especially if you have a brand that has a good identity. That's not going away.
Great, yeah. So let's see. I mean, I'm just sort of skimming through. I think we covered a lot of the content of the comments or questions out there on this side, on the chat. I guess, yeah, I just want to ask you guys, so there's a lovely question here. When normality resumes, is the hope that everything goes back to how it was, or is the business changed forever? Thoughts, comments?
I think it depends on the artist. I don't know that I'll be all that comfortable doing a meet and greet with the zombies anymore, even though it was a huge part of our VIP package and we made so much money off of it. But I just don't think that that's necessarily smart anymore. I do think we'll end up doing more virtual meet and greets and things like that with them, because they do love to interact with their fans, and we have a very solid fan base that's really diverse in age. I think we get more, we get 50% of our audience is actually under 40, and probably about 30% of it is under 25. It's a phenomenon I've never really been able to understand, but I love it. Mm-hmm. And so it's about finding the new ways that our artists will be able to function and still give as much as they can to their fans. Still finding ways to engage. I don't think it'll be the same for my other bands. I think they'll go out and do whatever they need to do, but they're not so much at risk,
Yeah. Naveed, business changed forever? Or do you think we'll go back 2021?
Look, I think life has changed forever for everybody, not just music professionals. So I think we're all in this together. We're all figuring this out together at the same time. I don't think things will go back to normal, but I think it's important for, artists to make art. And I think that needs to be kind of the root of everything. Obviously, everyone needs to eat and to have productive lives, and that's a big important piece of it. But I try to just counsel my clients to remember why they do this in the beginning, create stuff that that kids are going to interact with, and when you do that, I think that things kind of figure themselves out in a way. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I know better than anybody else what's going to happen, because I don't. But I'm going to try to figure it out every day.
I'm going to agree with Naveed mostly. Personally, I feel like things are going to go back to normal over time, and I'm judging that based on, at least in America, based on the way everybody rushed out the second the restrictions were lifted and we had to go back in. I don't think Americans are very good with short memories. So I think at least in America, things are going to go back more normal than you think. I think people are hungrier for that life than any of us are willing to admit, and I'm a little scared of it. I do think, to Naveed's, also to his point, that it'll never quite be the same, because we'll always know this is possible now. This isn't just it's not just an idea that some scientist talks about. It's something we've seen happen.
Yeah.
Most of us believe has happened. I think that 21 is going to be a lot of catch up. I think 21 is all the postponed tours, all of that stuff. And then 22 is going to be nuts, like Roaring 20s style. Like everyone is going to want to be out and have a good time, assuming the vaccine comes in that time period. The one thing I don't want to get too deep into, I just think this is kind of an educational place. Tour deals will change forever. And they're going to change against the artist. Live Nation, AEG, the big companies are no longer going to make big guarantee deals and take risk for artists to say, here's a bunch of money, produce your show, and we'll give you a bonus if you sell tickets. That's gone. That was the last 15 years. We have a head of touring who's used to tour manage the Grateful Dead. He's kind of keeps us up to date on this stuff. Now all of the tour deals, you're going to make the same amount of money as an artist. It's not anti-artist. Mm-hmm. It's just the artist is taking the risk, and that it's a door deal. You're going to get your money if you sell the tickets, and if you don't, then you're not going to make as much. It's going to make artists have a really hard time to produce big shows. I think big shows are going to have to diminish a little bit. Not that the artists won't make money, it's just that you won't have the advance with which to take a risk. Right. And there's a lot of talk about where that's going. And as a lot of shows get rebooked for 21, a lot of the deals are being renegotiated, and that's part of it, taking away the big guarantee money. Maybe not across the board. I'm just, at least in the very established, but not not Drake level artists that I work with. That definitely happens.
Yeah. Thanks for raising that. Actually, it's a really important point about what these deals are going to be doing, and to be ready for that negotiation. Okay, so I think we're way over time, aren't we? I want to thank our fabulous panelists for this. Normally I'd sort of have us end on sort of that, what, let's do it. We have a couple more minutes, right? Just real quick, give us that one little bit of that little the little gem of something that you just feel like this is the one thing that I think might work solution-wise right now. You could say use TikTok, for example, or something like that. Just tell me what you feel positive about right now that you just feel like you kind of want to work on, or you feel like you want to advise other people to try out, or do or focus on during this time period. Cindy, you have that one thought you think of that's going to work?
I think it's just focusing on the music, you know, it's why we all started, you know, make the music, get your artists or help your artists to make the best music that they can, and really then use every out of the box strategy you can think of and your team can think of to get it out there. It still starts with the music.
Okay, Jeremy.
I second Cindy. It all starts with the music, the content around the music, everything about it. I'm actually going to respond to Miles Hoffman, who asked a specific question. He was asking advice for student managers, and this goes for anybody. So I'm an adjunct professor at USC, and this goes for anyone who looks at themselves as a student and a manager or whatever, or student manager. You're not a student manager, you're a manager. There is no such thing as a student manager. You are just managing an artist. I had students at USC who have artists that have higher streaming numbers than the developing acts and friends at work. I have students at USC who are making better music videos than some of the professional artists I work with. Students can create anything. So the main advice is you have the same opportunity the rest of us do. Don't look at yourself as starting from behind as a student, like you're still learning. We're all learning. We're all on the same page. As Naveed said earlier, there are no rules. So go for it.
Love that. Love that. Thanks, Jeremy. And yeah, I saw that question. I'm glad you got to it. And Naveed, any one thing you feel like everyone should just sort of, think about, pay attention to?
I would co-sign what Jeremy says 100%. I went to law school not thinking that this was a possible career for me. All my law professors advised me against pursuing this. If you love it, do it until it starts making you money, and it probably will. I guess I would just say that, I think tough times always yield creativity. So look for opportunities to collaborate with people, with companies that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. And I think that everyone's in this together, so we're all kind of like more open to trying stuff. And just to be patient with yourselves. Like, the news changes, it seems like, dramatically every week. So, just like take a deep breath. Like, we're all trying to figure this out at the same time.
Yeah, we all are. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in so we can all figure it out together. And thank you, Bobby and Joanne, for having us. And we look forward to seeing you at Mondo, at MMF webinars in the near future. So take care, everybody. Thank you so much to Cindy and to Jeremy and to Naveed. Thank you so much.
And,
thanks for having me.
Bye,
Neeta,
everyone.
Thank you, Neeta. Thank you so much. And we so cherish our relationship with MMF-US. Everybody, we will be back next Thursday with our International Development Series, and of course in October. Until then, thank you for an incredible panel. Everybody, stay safe, stay well, stay good to each other. Good evening from New York, good afternoon from LA, and we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.